is Debbie Bacharach. And Debbie and I go way back, even further back than I even remembered. She reminded me that we have shared a writing center history together, and it's so appropriate to have her here today, because we have a shared history through poetry. We're both members of this fantastic group called Poets on the Coast, and also have a shared history through our work as educators, which so many of you are, in addition to all the other professions that people have. But there are many, many ways to teach, and poetry is a great teacher. So I consider all of you teachers, because you're all poets. So it is a thrill to be welcoming Debbie to celebrate her new book. Another one of those groundbreaking books, and with its themes, particularly in Women's History Month, which should never just be relegated to 1 month, as so many things should not be relegated to 1 month or 1 day. Well, Debbie Bacharach is the author of Shake and Tremor from Grayson Books 2021. And After I Stop Lying from Cherry Grove Collections 2015. Debbie received a 2020 Pushcart honorable mention and has been published in Vallum, Poet Lore, and the Southampton Review, among many other journals, which I can attest to because we're part of a group that reports where we send our work to weekly, and she's published widely. She is an editor, teacher, and tutor in Seattle. And another thing I want to say about Debbie is she is an incredible ambassador of poetry in her own right, because she is one of those folks who has dedicated herself to writing book reviews of other people's books, which is so, so important. And I wanted to give a shout out to that aspect of her citizenship, because she didn't put it in her bio, but it's so important. And thank you for that work. And thank you for the poetry. And I'm really excited for your debut today on Cultivating Voices Live Poetry.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Sandy. Thank you, Cultivating Voices. I'm a little overwhelmed. The readings have been so gorgeous and moving to me, and I have to redirect. Okay, it's my turn. I'm so glad Attracta read about Mary Magdalene, because that kind of leads beautifully into my book, Shake and Tremor, which is a concept book. It grew out of a class I took in college called Feminist Interpretation of Scripture. So continuing on with our Women's History Month, but history way back. So these poems, that set the academic background for the work. And then I used my creative curiosity to further explore these women in the Bible, and how modern day is also how they reflect in the modern world. I do not expect you to have any background in the Bible. I'm going to give you some of that background. You may have heard of Abraham and Sarah, who were kind of the progenitors, the start of the Jewish people. When we enter this poem, they're called Abram and Sarai. God promises them many, many descendants, but Sarai does not conceive. And she demands that Abraham take her enslaved servant Hagar in her stead. Women's work. Sarai, Abram's wife, took Hagar the Egyptian, her slave girl, and gave her to her husband Abram as a wife. Genesis 16:3. All of them, Abram, Sarai, and Hagar, born into a time of quiet. No radio line hum, no buzz from broken transformers. You could hear the cattle in the far field. It's hard to imagine that level of quiet, how you could hear Abram's footfall, how it differed from Sarai's as it approached the flap in Hagar's tent. The tent made of goat skin. From the goat, Hagar raised and fed and chastised and chased, and eventually whose throat she slit. The goat whose carcass she butchered, meat she seared, whose hide she scraped, softened with its own brains, her own urine, because she knew how and she could. And now, as this supple skin Hagar stretched and tied is lifted, it whispers, survive. So in the book, I interweave poems about the biblical people with people from the modern day struggling with similar issues. And in the case of the next two poems, sex and infertility. I am writing about fucking. Because I am human, I am not the only one. Because I like it. Because sorrow was taken. Because in Iran, the mullahs determined no film with even a slight touch, a fingertip against a cheek, a backlit shot of one shoulder against another, a hold even of consolation can be made. And yet the Iranian population tripled in the post-Shah era. So someone, and why not me, needs to write about fucking. Because it is terrifying. Because I am 47, but really I would have grabbed at 27, at 17. Because it's not polite, and I am always very please and thank you. Because there are already enough words for snow. Because of shame, that fishbone in the throat. Because we are made of stars. And by the way, Sandy, I wrote that poem at a Poets on the Coast retreat. Between IVF treatments, my best friend explains, I want a baby. I want a baby like I want a glass of water, like a glass in my hands that doesn't shatter, not like glasses lined one after the other with small pebbles and water all salt. Cast bones for me. I want a baby more than Sarah in duty, more than Hagar who blinked. They told me to drink herbs, iris broth. I left the dregs. That's why my womb broke like a glass puzzle. Read tea leaves, tarot. I pee on a stick, on barley that doesn't sprout. Who are these women who glow? I want to steal. For this child, I will take acupuncture like slivers of glass in my womb. Play the harmonium, call my child home. I crouch by the glass in the road, broken shards. God couldn't put this back together. I press shards in my palm, one mandrake root left to chew. I scramble through old dirt to find it. And this is a poem about community, which is another thing that happens in the Bible, of course. The firmament. It was one of those summers we climbed out windows, swam in the lake on hot days, and days that weren't that hot. We baked Alaska in a rented oven, told jokes on the floor. The jokes, the cake, exquisitely delicious. It was one of those summers we laughed with banjos, sat in the front row on the grass, ate blueberries, sang voraciously. We did not steal each other's lovers or even borrow them for a few hours in a hot, dark basement. See us there in a head to belly chain, Michaela to Ellie to Debbie to Annie, full of matter, all aglow, all around the world we went. So one thing I love about Bible stories is they're open to so many different interpretations. And in my reading, the master-slave relationship between Abraham and Hagar is also a love affair and part of a complex polyamorous dynamic. Hagar gives birth to Ishmael, Sarah gives birth to Isaac, and then she demands that Abraham send Hagar away. And this next poem is from Hagar's point of view. The affair. Tonight, I walk into the desert with one sack of water and my son. My body and ocean, I move with the moon. I did not demand a promise. I did not ask for my son Ishmael, already curled in a grave-like hollow. An angel visits me on this road to Beersheba. Angel is the word I say when I mean strength of will, deep and abiding conviction. Angel is the word I say when I hear water rise up in the well. So in the book, I have more poems about Hagar, Abraham, and Sarah, but now we're going to move on to Lot and his wife. God promises not to destroy the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah if there are 10 good men in them. There are not. But the angels who will rain fire and brimstone on Sodom and Gomorrah go to Lot, who actually is Abraham's nephew, and promise to spare him and his family if they leave and do not look back. Lot's wife looks back and God turns her into a pillar of salt. And the angels, they come to Lot's door and warn him the cities will be destroyed. And I thought of all the other times you get news like that. The call comes at midnight. You get the news in the corridor. Your eyes slide down the sterile, washed out green walls, outside the room where your father still breathes. The door not even closed, just a curtain of birds with sharp beaks between you. You get the sharp news in the airport bathroom, the faucet broken, the hand towels stuck, a small boy almost overbalanced by a blue Elmo suitcase as he walks alone toward the door. You get the new news and the flights are all booked. You remember that boyfriend of your mother's who didn't die of being drunk. You remember the day you drove angry in the rain, the pool of oil on the road. You remember black stitches, blood seeping at the edges. You get the old news and you must wrap dishes so they don't crack. You write out your full name. When you get the devastating news, a large liquid silence tries in vain to devour the skin of the sky. So these cities are to be destroyed. Everything in these cities. Sodom and Gomorrah the night before. A mother awake cups the moon, takes 3 sips. Her husband has been off throwing down his luck, probably tried to take the men who came through the gate, drunk the wine he was bound to sacrifice. A privy door slowly squeaks open, bangs shut. Shards still clutter the public way. The night so dark the lavender explodes in whispers. The rats don tuxedos and waltz while Lot's daughter sleeps with a bracelet from her betrothed. A muscle spasms in the mother's chest. She buckles, but doesn't shift the suckling child. Thank you. So this next poem is the title poem, Shake and Tremor. And because we're all here today, you get the behind the scenes story. It is the first poem I wrote for this book, long before I had this idea of a book. Just this is the poem I wrote. And for me, it's Lot's wife speaking after she's been turned into a pillar of salt. Shake and Tremor. Still the blue heron lifts long legs over early morning. Still the blue-green boulders filled with barnacles. Still the green ropes of sea. Still riblets in the sand, remnants of the night. Still I believe in the power of lust the full shake and tremor of living on a moving planet that revolves around a ball of fire. Still the crabs small and white, like moons in need, like promises unspoken or promises spoken and unfulfilled. Still I wish to be swallowed whole by the sea. Still the sea, the spume and crash of the sea. Still the salt-rich water coating my skin. Still my porous skin. I'm gonna read two more poems about Potiphar's wife, a different character from the Bible, and then I'm going to end with the first poem from the book. And it's going to be a broadside that my friend Marcy Swift contributed the art for. So it's a celebration. So later in Genesis, Joseph, who is Abraham's great-grandson, is sold into slavery in Egypt and becomes an overseer for Potiphar, one of Potiphar's officers. Potiphar's wife tries to seduce Joseph, but he refuses, and she then falsely accuses him of rape. Potiphar's wife considers how we got here. And after a time, his master's wife cast her eyes upon Joseph and said, "Lie with me." Genesis 39:7. The world doesn't care if I have long hair, brushed, unbrushed, perfumed, chopped. The world doesn't care if I samba in the park, wear heels and eat almonds, that my fingers are fragrant with oranges. Why would the world care if cholera comes across the water, that dreams stink of dogwood? In the beginning, Joseph was so beautiful. Potiphar's wife talks about that time. In the end, Joseph did all right for himself. Because he was in the dungeons, he called the dreams, and from there, he worked it like he worked it in my husband's home, putting together puzzles of rain, watching hands. Oh, he watched. Roll pastry dough on marble tabletops. I saw the oasis shimmer at the edge of the horizon, like I had been walking toward it my entire life, like I had been crawling on my hands and knees. All right. Okay, I'm going to share my screen and read you this last poem. And the artwork is by my friend Marcy Swift, who is here, I think, watching today. When God is a woman, she does not accept apologies for the incessant thrum. She explains obtuse angles, how to lay cable. She understands that tigers eat alligators. She set it up that way. She rides the New York subways, looks strangers in the eye. She has her first child at 90, changes her name. It's amazing what a woman can accomplish when she is not afraid. Thank you.